This is DCG 201 member Cyrusil. I'm currently at the streaming machine. We will be starting momentarily. We're just being held up by a routine traffic operation, unplanned maintenance. You could call it a number of things. We'll be live shortly. Stay tuned and enjoy the music. Thank you.
This is the end of side one of this record. Please now turn it over for the second side.
Acid. Switch it up.
You ain't got the motherfucking. You ain't got the motherfucking.
push the bass. Switch it up.
You ain't got the motherfucking. You ain't got the motherfucking. You ain't got the motherfucking.
I don't agree, but okay.
Well, it's more of that, what do you call it? It's that, well, first of all, I have started late before, and second of all, yeah, we'll be there in a moment. I forgot what I was going to say. So I guess we'll go in the episode. With the way the OBS currently is, and this might be an issue during the stream, so we'll bring that up. Hi, everyone out there. Yes, we are finally live. I'll get to that in a moment. So just let everyone know before we get into the intro that the machine has been not only running for a while, but there's also been other updates in the background. Everything has this instant reward because I have the camera at a different position popped up. So if there is an odd lag, as you saw with the intro, that's because I originally preloaded all of these before the stream happened. And I was going to do that before we went live to make sure there's no lag. So if there is lag, that's why, because they were originally preloaded and now they're not. But okay, so since we got all the tech stuff out of there, basically I really hate McDonald's right now. That's why the stream's like 15 minutes late. But hi everyone out there on the interwebs. Welcome to the DCG 201 live stream. My name is Sidepocket. I'm one of the two co-founders of DCG 201, previously known as DEF CON 201 or DC 201 because of the new naming scheme at DEF CON. We are a computer hacker group that is based in Jersey City, New Jersey, hence the 201. That's the area code for us, and we meet third Friday of every month. And in fact, this upcoming Friday, which is the 21st of May, we're going to have our meeting. We already announced it's going to be VR themed, and we're going to be making a couple more announcements in the next 2 or 3 days. And if you want to find out more information about us, you can, you can go to, where is it in my notes? Our website here at defcon201.org. And we also have, as you get to look how really bad my hair is, all of our social media that we're on, including Twitter at DEFCON201NJ, as well as Instagram, the hostx.social instance of Mastodon, and all sorts of amazing things on that link tree. And if anyone is unfortunately watching out there on Facebook, you can actually chat with us, but we need a different type of, it's like Facebook doesn't directly connect because it's Facebook, so there's like a workaround. And so on chat, I'm posting the link to the workaround. Oh, we follow you on Twitter. We follow a lot of interesting people on Twitter, so I'm glad you popped up. So in addition, with me, before we go into what the show is and the spiel, I have one of our members here who is unfortunately living with us to his own health detriment, which is Cyril. You probably seen him on before, mainly on Circuit Breakers. And the reason why, you want to say hi?
Yeah. What's up?
And the reason why we have him here is, well, first of all, I've never done this with like an in-person thing in front of an audience, and two, some of the coding stuff we're going to get into, particularly a little bit later on, is something where I think he'd be able to look at and explain it better than I can. So this is going to be an interesting episode. So right before we get in, just two more quick things. So first of all, welcome to Crypto Barons. This is the show where we look at cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies as technologies instead of like the whole snake oil salesman and we sometimes get into a little bit of the finances. I actually forgot to bring up kind of the current finance of the thing we're talking about, so you might see me do that on air. We a lot of times we get into community stuff, but we mainly look at, we try to run mainnets, test nets, we look at code on GitHub, break down technological concepts and all of that. And if you like what you see today and want to get also notifications for our future streams, such as our upcoming meeting on the 21st and some of the future live shows, such as mostly CRSL, but it's kind of all three of us on Circuit Breakers or my other show, Master of Unlocking, or Archviolence Perspective, or any of the cool specials. One which I'm actually going to announce what it's going to be at the end of the stream, so there'll be a cool crypto thing coming up later this week that I'll announce at the end. But if you want to get those notifications, if you can't remember or anything, you can hit that bell, click on the YouTube, and click like, share, subscribe on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. And particularly on DLive, because that's sort of like the cryptocurrency live stream hub. And we're trying to get, as you can see, we have 94 followers. If we get to 100 followers on DLive, we'll be able to reach a status called Cryptocurrency Superstar, which I know that's the thing. And what I hate is every time I read it or say it, since I grew up in the 90s, I hear that cheerleading skit from Saturday Night Live, with that weird girl that goes, "Superstar," like every time. That's how I hear it. I envy millennials for that. But once we get that stats, we can do a lot more with the DLive channel, in particular with Crypto Barons. So if you're on DLive, please hit that follow. It's completely for free, just like everything else on this program. And if you know someone on DLive, let them know, because all we need is 6 more people, and we can do a lot more with Crypto Barons. Also, real quick to note, just like on DLive, near the end of the episode, I do have their little internal currency called Lemons. I will be distributing a bunch. That's what we always do every episode of Crypto Barons. And also, my brain just blanked out. If you do follow us, one of the reasons I have these headphones on is because we get notifications for those, and we cheer people on. It's really fun. So, I'm like the grandpa from Jackie Chan's Adventures. One more thing. So just to clarify, if you're wondering why we have 2 episode 22s of Crypto Barons, I don't count the last episode due to stupidity. There was a bunch of problems with the venue that I don't want to go into, or otherwise my blood pressure will surpass and like nuclear reactors will go off. So this will be the 22nd episode. I'm really hoping to revisit the Potcoin and Tokes, because I couldn't get them live on there, but in the near future they're going to be making announcements, and we're going to revisit that episode. So yes, the one more thing. That's why it's going on. The reason why normally this happens every Saturday. This happens second and fourth Saturday of every month. The only reason why it's on Sunday is because, to be honest, I had a lot of stuff to do yesterday out in New York till like 4 a.m. in the morning. So that's why we're doing it today. So let's get into what we're doing it today. Let's go over to the main screen here. There we go. So this is the website right here that CRSL codes and maintains, and then I occasionally am like, we need to update, and he's like, and we update it. And so let's get into what we're going to be talking about. Now, this sort of, just one day I logged into Twitter, and this was everywhere. And a little bit of backstory here. Today was supposed to be the masternoding episode. I've been trying for now 3 months to do the episode where I teach everyone what a masternode is and actually do like the coding and wallet setup online. I tried that in February, and it got pushed back to something I can't remember. No, sorry, in March I tried it, and it got pushed back to something I can't remember. And then April, it got pushed back because of a new piece of news that I can't remember. And I have this thing where every time I try to do the masternoding episode, as CRSL starts doing Frankenstein experiments in the background, every time I try to do the masternoding episode, there's like no crypto news. And then when I'm like, okay, so this episode here will finally be the masternode, all the crypto news came out, and there was a ton of stuff, just freaking mainly with Elon Musk, because I love how, Bitcoin and stuff is supposed to be like non-decentralized, and yet one stupid rich man now basically controls all of cryptocurrency just based on tweets. And so it's like literally there was no news, and I'm like, okay. I even said last episode, okay, the next one after the tokes, the Popcoin, will be the masternoding one finally. Third time's the charm, but apparently third time is not the charm because Dogecoin went crazy, and then Elon Musk was on SNL, and then Doge crashed, and they did not accept Bitcoin, and now that went down, and now Dogecoin's being accepted on. It's just there's so much crypto news just came out this week. Yes, Elon Musk loves to pump and dump, which is why we have a freaking Star Wars droid as a kid now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I'll actually extend that to that most rich people and investors like to pump and dump, aka they like to scam, so and manipulate markets. So in between all of those news, I saw something like this. This thing that we're going to talk about today got so, and by the way, you know the microphone can pick up every sound from this.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just scraping in the background. I can like hear it. So what was I going to do? Like literally I logged into the Twitter one day and I logged into a bunch of stuff. My friends, like my personal friends, like my non-tech friends were talking about this. I went on to Reset Era, which is like a major video game forum, and this was the top topic on there that was non-video game related, and it drove me nuts. Everyone's saying they hear the chair squeaks in the plastic.
Oh, sorry.
Because the microphone's really sensitive. And what we're going to be talking about, if I can get the... Come on, lag. This is why I preload everything. There we go. Lag. Yep, everything's gonna load now.
Maybe I should just not deal with the streams in the future.
Yes. Well, obviously I'll set up circuit breakers and everything.
Yeah, no,
But,
I'm very much.
So
away
anyhow,
from my position.
this is what we're gonna be talking about, which is Chia, which confuses me because, you know, I'm an older millennial, and I was originally going to do this joke on here, but I didn't have enough time. That's why this is why it's the show title. Where when I think of Chia, I obviously think of Chia Pets, and how there's 8 million of them now, and now they make like herbal ones, including like weed ones, depending on like what state you're in or whatever. So like that's all I keep thinking about, which is like Scooby-Doo heads and sheep and stuff like that. So it's like I'm just like, what's going on? What the hell is this Chia? I am so confused on what all of this is. And now, thankfully, I had to actually search for this, but there is a very short 1-minute video of Chia explaining themselves of what it is, and we're going to watch that now, particularly because I'd like to reiterate again that when it comes to brain just blanked out, that it's often good when you're going to research something to go to like the main source and look at their website, look at the videos they put out, especially when it comes to cryptocurrencies. This is like a good piece of recon, is you want to watch essentially their propaganda videos, because one, it lets you know how probably that organization sees themselves, and the other thing is that it also lets you know how they want to be presented, because as we've seen with past episodes of Crypto Barons, a lot of times the way like the bad organizations that we've looked at, or the scrupulous ones, there's a very different tone and what they're doing, like compared to what they put on YouTube and their live streams and their official websites, compared to what they're actually doing behind the scenes. For example, 2 episodes ago we covered Signal, with an awesome friend that Cyril recommended to me, who really broke it down very well. Where, you know, and I agree, and this is kind of what it was early on. Signal was very much focused on privacy, and they still talk about that they're very private with the assumption that they're really secure. But then in reality, they were linking up to, I'm trying to even remember what the cryptocurrency on. My brain keeps calling it money coin. I think it's called mobile coin, because it sounds like it should be money coin, like something generic like that. And so like the stuff they were doing with mobile coin, which causes so many both trust issues and just pure code and network security problems, is completely contradictory to all of the promotion that they put up about themselves, about being like 110% secure and everything. So we're gonna watch how Chia explains itself to everyone else. And yeah, that's a good one. The Hated One, which is a channel that I actually really like. It's this awesome He calls himself a hacker, but I haven't seen any. But he's doing good work out there. Who covers a lot of privacy stuff along with tech lore, and he did a whole thing about Signal like a week after we did the stream on it. So anyhow, let's. I'm just gonna close the. We're gonna not close. I'm gonna plop off the browser here, and we're gonna see how Chia prevents itself. And I'm probably gonna bleed from the ears because this video is kind of loud. So just note if it might be a little bit loud on your end. I apologize. So let's see how Chia explains what the hell is a Chia that's not the rub seeds and pour water and cute goat.
At the heart of most cryptocurrency is a mining process, in which transactions are verified and added to a public ledger. Miners compete to add a new block to the chain. Through a power-intensive process, miners calculate a number called a hash. Whoever finds a block with the right hash first adds that block to the chain and collects a small reward. But there's a few critical problems with this. Next year, Bitcoin alone will use 0.5% of the world's electricity, much of which is dirty power sourced through bribery, blackmail, or theft. As blockchain technology becomes more prevalent, this level of power consumption will be unsustainable. The mining process also lends itself to miners pooling into groups, which undermines the very idea of a decentralized system. On the Chia network, blocks are farmed, not mined. Users on the network generate hashes that are stored on the unused portions of their hard disk drive. When a block is about to be added to the chain, its hash is compared to all of those already generated on the network, and the user with the closest hash writes the block. The Chia network will harness cheap and abundant unused storage to support a cryptocurrency which is far less wasteful, more decentralized, and more secure. We're excited to be writing the next chapter of digital money. If you'd like to be part of the story, visit chia.net.
So that's sort of the. I'm trying to think of the term we call it the. I guess the elevator investment pitch. And basically what Chia is. And as I said in the video, just to reiterate, Jersey City! I don't know if anyone heard that out there. It's some sort of, we had ridge racers happening in the background here.
You're
Echoing?
Yep.
That's why. Okay. I see. Sorry about that. There we go. I thought I clicked the desktop audio off, and I didn't because the other video loaded. Welcome to OBS. Even though I'm used to OBS for over a year now, sometimes it's still confusing. So I'm going to reiterate what they kind of said in that video, and we're going to go a little bit in depth into this, and then we're going to try to look at some like coding stuff, which is one of the reasons why we have Silvercell here, who's currently listing it like he's like the NSA, which I think is cute. So the way this popped up on my radar is Chia has a couple of the Chia network, I should say, because I think, and we're going to look this up in a second, I think Chia is also the name of the cryptocurrency coins that are manufactured from the blockchain. And it's actually really hard for me to even call this a blockchain in the traditional sense because of how they set this up. So, let's see, marketing knows more about tech than the tech department, right? I don't know, it's kind of a struggle because, you have things like, I think still my favorite worst thing last year was Zoom, where like I was on a Twitter thread with one of the engineers from Zoom. And even when you didn't agree with his points, he actually had really good, like, reasons and like them of like how they came to decisions on certain things of how the security is set up or not set up for Zoom. And it sounded perfectly fine. And then the problem is their CEO went on and was like, "We're going to eat boots," and then and then everyone flew away from Zoom and Zoom adjacent things like Keybase. So that often happens where, like, if the tech department could speak in front of humans more, we'd probably have a lot better, like, understanding and realistic levels than what, like, the marketing department or the upper head chair people think. But, so let's get back to what makes Chia, and hello there, XYT. Also, thank you for the early person who followed. I was having a multi-audio experience here, so I couldn't remember your username, but thank you for that follow. If I'm able to see it later, I will bring that up, because normally you also have this on repeat. But if you're wondering why I'm looking this way instead of in front of you, I'm actually putting this on the giant TV because it's just easier to see everything. I've been testing that out, so that's what we're doing. But let's get back to the Chia network. So here are the main couple of things of what makes the Chia network the Chia network. So one of them, and this is why I'm hesitant to call it a blockchain in the traditional sense, is because most things, as we've talked in the past episodes of Crypto Barons, the blockchain is usually some, nebulous piece of code that is mirrored on multiple different wallets, essentially, and all the wallets communicate and talk together, and there's a huge consensus. The Chia network is kind of different because instead of, it's like centralized, but not really. There are wallets for it, and they do communicate, and each of them does have a copy per se, but their copy is not a traditional ledger. It's its own cloud network that then speaks to other cloud networks. And how is that done is the other weird thing about it, which is how it got in the news, and we'll get about this in a bit, which is they use what's called a proof of space. And here's a fun fact. The actual full term for their concept that they claim it as, and I think it might be on here on their website. Let's scroll down and see. Is I believe they actually call it proof of space and time, which makes it sound like a thank you. Oh, I love this name. Thank you, goddamn ducks, for following us on Twitch. So I'm gonna see if this actually loads or not. But yeah, I believe it is. Yes, proof of space and time. And like,
Wow.
I feel that like that term, like this should be on the Space Force website, not on. It's like, yeah, it's like blockchain, but it's like proof of quantum physics.
Yeah. Proof of time.
Yes.
Hot.
So yeah. Basically, we're either shitting or getting off the pot here, and we're gonna get into a moment of what they exactly mean by proof of space, because it confuses everyone. It should be called Einstein's. I think, like, Einstein's the basis for a lot of things, but modern day, most things name things after Hawking's. So they should probably just be called... Well, I think there's already a radiation that's technically called Hawking's, and its full name is Hawking radiation.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to come up with something different for, like, cryptocurrency. Proof of goddamn sense would be interesting. Quantum leap in technology, smallest leap possible, basically. And the third interesting thing, which relates to both of those, is that they're trying to proposition themselves as a eco and environmentally friendly blockchain mainnet, hence the leaf in the Chia logo, if you've noticed before, with their argument that by using proof of space and time, that since you're not using intense GPU and CPU power, and that hard drives can technically run in like a passive mode, that this would save a lot on energy, thus kind of getting to the whole like how Bitcoin is basically killing our environment and trees and everything, which is a valid point. So let's dismantle those three things really quick. So first of all, if I could find it in which tab, let's get into the whole. Let's just get this out of the way. Let's get into the proof of space and time. The actual and we'll get into SSDs in a moment, by the way. Yes. Let me bring that up right now, because thank you for reminding me, because the whole McDonald's thing screwed my brain over. Yes. So one of the interesting things about the Chia project is that it was designed by Bram Cohen, aka the guy that invented BitTorrent, which is already like red flag number one. And so right here, you know who Bram Cohen is, clowning this whole project. I hope you have a good reason. I just want to note that on Crypto Barons, that when we cover different topics, that doesn't necessarily mean we're endorsing it. When we endorse things, we will let people know, oh, this is a great thing. I would say half the episode of Crypto Barons so far have been us either highlighting cons that organizations don't want you to know about, or outright just blowing doors open on scams. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of good uses for blockchain technology, and there's actually good uses now for cryptocurrencies, but because of the pure volume of scams, because it's the finance market and this is still very new tech, and most people don't know the difference between a microwave and an eggplant, even though it's 2021, there's just the scamming is just super rampant in the field, which is why everyone's doing it, hence Elon Musk. So we're not saying that Chia is a good thing. In fact, I lead for it not being a good thing, and we'll explain in a second. But what we are interested in and what made me preempt the masternode episode is the amount of the types of technology it's using and the way they've implemented it. So let's get what I was saying the first thing out of the way, which is the proof of space and time. There's an actual better technical definition for this, and what it actually is if I remember correctly, it's proof of storage is what they actually mean. What this basically let me try to bring up my notes here. Let's see if I can actually bring up my notes. There we go. And basically what they mean by proof of storage is, again, I said it's the blockchain is basically its own cloud network on here. It's using the remainder of any hard drive that you designate the wallet to create that cloud network. It basically eats up the rest of the partitioning on whatever hard drive you point that at. And because it exists on there, it's doing a thing which is called hard drive mining. So as we said in the past, you have proof of work where a CPU or a GPU is constantly is basically usually solving math equations or some type of computational aspect in order to make more blocks on the blockchain, thus generate more coins. And then you have the more like the thing everyone's kind of going for, which is proof of stake, which is basically by holding coins you essentially create more blocks and thus creating more coins. It's kind of like what rich people to some degree wish they could do physically in real life that they do in real life when it comes to credit and stuff, where like you just have money in a vault and then when you check it later there's just more money. And the other one, which we actually haven't talked about, which is proof of capacity, which is kind of related to proof of storage here. And what it does is, again, it makes use of hard drives and storage. And this is basically kind of what Chia uses, where they call it farming and they call the different nodes farmers, but what they actually mean is plotting, where they basically generate a random solution or a plot, which is a sort of cryptographic algorithm, and that sits on the hard drive. And then the mining involves the miners competing to basically find the solution for that, and whoever does it wins. Again, it's very similar to a lot of proof. There's a version of proof of staking that's like that, but instead of using the actual wallet, they're using the rest of your hard drive space. And sorry, my brain's just going haywire here. So yeah, let me just check my other notes here. And the weird thing about the Chia network in particular is that they have their own terminology for everything. It's like the freaking Pine stuff. So remember I talked about that cryptographic hash that sits on your hard drive? They called, I love this, they call them puzzles. So each puzzle that it generates is a BLS public key, and that's what they generate the hash from. If I remember correctly here, because it's in my notes somewhere. Yes, is that the actual whole puzzle hash is the parent ID designation combined with the puzzle itself, and then the amount that it generates, and that makes the entire puzzle. And then the computer, and then your the different machines in the cloud network, including your own, is basically trying to compete for that in order to solve that to generate more coins. Every time I describe stuff like this, like, again, it feels like we're like they're doing some sort of weird carnival game or like some weird card game like Rummy or something. But in general, that's sort of how the whole hard drive sort of platform works. And the reason why I know that's how it works is because this is not the first to use proof of storage. If I can, come on, lag. There we go.
Oh, I was just saying if you click in the window, it might come.
Okay. There we go. Because that's the draft signature. God damn it. We're gonna get to that in 1 second. Here we go. There are two other cryptocurrencies that originally tried this. One of the famous ones, and I think this was the first one to actually use this, is called Burst. And Burst kind of got famous because of Linus, I always keep calling him Linux, Linus Tech Tips, because they have 8 billion hard drives living around, tried to mine Burst, and basically ran into some of the same problems that you kind of realize with the Chia network that we're getting rid of, which is the amount of effort you're putting in based on the reward you get. And the other one, which is probably really confusing, I might add, is there's also another one called Chia, which sounds very similar to Chia. It also does a proof of storage system. So why is this kind of interesting besides the fact of like, oh, we're using like hard drive stuff? Well, first of all, and let's see, the website looks pretty, so I should trust it. Yeah, it's unfortunately pretty much how people think of this there stuff. I'm literally halfway done describing this. There's a couple of issues, like, so they are correct in that the hard drive, so the proof of storage is way less technically in theory, energy and labor intensive. In fact, one of the most hilarious things about proof of storage is that you can actually speed it up with GPUs and CPUs, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of not using GPUs and CPUs. And so you're probably wondering, well, why would there be a sort of slowness? Well, I'm going to look at my notes here about 2 guides. And yes, you can do this on traditional hard drives with the needle record thing, as well as SSDs. And I'm trying to see here, because there's like this, like the number in order to actually do this is ridiculous. So let me see if I actually have this in my notes real quick. And again, if you, here we go. If you, first of all, again, if you like all the stuff you see, you can hit that bell, like share, subscribe on Twitch, Live, and YouTube. Because as you see, we've been cheering people on for this, and so we keep doing. Sorry, my brain's really scrambled because I might describe the McDonald's at the end of the episode, but here we go. Let's see. I'm trying to figure. I hope it actually did show up in my notes. Because if I can't find it here, I'm going to show you a even better example of why this becomes an issue. Let's see here. Because the amount of disk space that you need now, particularly now for Chia, is ridiculous. So basically what you're doing when you do proof of storage is you're trading power consumption for not only the amount of space on the hard drives, but the amount of hard drives you have. In fact, as I actually look for this, we actually do have, we're not going to do this episode, but this is like, you've just been stacking up on like hard drive racks here.
So like here I have, oh, that's actually my phone going off. Here I have like 12 terabytes of storage in a single array here, and it's just hard drives pop in, and simple enough. You would need probably 20 of these to run an efficient Chia storage system. And people use SSDs for this, which are A, expensive, and B, they burn out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. In fact, to kind of back up what he's saying here, so you know we're not blowing us out of our ass, one of the big resources for Chia is a website that is known as, let's see, where did I put it here, which is known as the Chia Calculator. And if you go over the Chia Calculator, which will load in a second, we're going to see what the current size of the entire network is. And remember, you're not downloading the entire thing, but this could give you kind of an idea here. So most people, I think, deal with a lot. Well, okay, so up until very recently, we've been mainly dealing with gigabytes. And for most things, we've been dealing with gigabytes. You know, now we're starting to get more prolifically terabyte hard drives. And can you, because I can't remember off the top of my head, so
yeah.
What are the next 3 after terabyte?
It goes terabyte, petabyte, exabyte, yottabyte.
Right. And these are thousands of the previous type. So like a terabyte was like 1,000 gigabytes. Gigs. Yeah. So if we go over the Chia Calculator, which will actually allow you to put in numbers and figure out how much you can mine from Chia, the total network space right now is 5.265. I'm going to script, what was the term?
Exabyte.
Exabyte. I wanted to call it Edamin bytes like it's the food.
Yeah. Just a note, when it says EIB or TIB rather than TB or EB, that's binary. It's XB bytes, TB bytes. Nobody says that. Everyone just says terabytes. But it's a good thing to make note of because when you're talking about binary, everything is 1024 above the previous rather than 1,000.
Right.
So a terabyte, a tebibyte being 1,024 gigabytes.
And that's exactly what Siriso was talking about with that. We would need like 3 apartments of these at this stage. And it keeps growing. If I remember correctly, 5 days ago, this was 3.2 petabytes. Yeah. That's how much it jumped.
So let's do a fun little project here.
Okay.
Right? So here I have, actually let me just check.
Okay.
1.5, 3, so that's 6 terabytes here. This one's 6 terabytes. And this one is 8 terabytes.
Mhm.
So 6, 6, and 8, that's, I'm bad at math, 18? No, 20.
It's like 20-ish.
Yeah. So just throw in 20 terabytes and see how much like that would like get. So it's the other one.
Oh. Sorry. So, terabytes. I think we should be able to switch this.
Yep.
TB. It goes all the way to a Yoda byte. Is it 20?
20. Yep.
Let's give it a bit because of the lag. One of these years. Wait, can I even enter a?
There it goes.
There it goes.
So, okay. If I were to dedicate all of this storage space to just Chia and nothing else, it would still take 2 months of running the thing in order to get even a tiny bit of the Chia currency.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Let's see. It says 4 kilobytes. No one will ever use that much RAM. Some guy from the 1980s.
Oh yeah, 640K ought to be enough for anybody.
Well, it doesn't help that our code keeps getting more bloated and more bloated.
Yeah.
See Google. But yeah, this is one of the big problems is that the amount of hard drive space plus of how long you would run it. And also note, if you were to actually do this, if I remember correctly, you need to make sure that essentially, like a lot of hard drives, particularly modern ones, have like built-in like sleep statuses, so that after a while it will like go into like
And you have to turn
passive
those
dumb
off.
mode. You have to disable those, and which is another problem too. Which this is what I'll get into with the next thing, is that you have to make sure that you're going to get hard drives that are going to last a long time, because one of the disadvantages, and I actually have it here in my notes, of doing this type of mining is that HDDs usually have a life cycle around 10,000 hours. And so
Wow.
you're going to be going through a lot of hard drives.
Yep. And if my calculations are right, each one of these draws 90 watts. Let's just round it up to 100 watts.
Mhm.
So 100, 200, 300 watts every hour for 2 months. How many hours are in 2 months? So, actually, I got something else I need to... you can keep talking about this. I'll do the calculation myself.
While he crunches the numbers, I'm going to go into the second part of this, of why this is also like going against its own green initiative, which is, again, the big problem is that because Chia jumped up, particularly from Chinese miners, the demand far outstrips the supply, whether you're talking about electricity, the hard drives themselves, the bear of the network, etc. And so one of the things that have been happening here, as this article loads, is that so many hard drives, particularly high-end, high-capacity hard drives, have been purchased, particularly by people who mine in China, that we actually might end up with SSD drive storages. Now, there is a defensive brigade for Chia, and there's some reasonable arguments. Like one of their arguments is that apparently you only need to do the initialization on a high-end hard drive, and then you can actually move the stuff to like lower, crappier hard drives. I still think, but that's the thing. For example, I'll frame it in a different way. Let's see how I can phrase this properly. In the year 2000, in the year 2020, 2000. See, I'm old. I'm already thinking Y2K and Britney Spears and shit. And frickin' Engage. So in 2020, right? There are other ways to wipe your butt. We managed a lot of toilet paper, and if everyone got like 2 9-packs of toilet paper, there would literally be a shit ton left. And by the time you get through all that toilet paper, the toilet paper would be restocked, and therefore there wouldn't be any shortages. That didn't happen, because basically there was no fear except in Australia of losing toilet paper, but everyone panic buyed so hard it actually tanked it. Same way now with the gas prices due to the ransomware. That there was no gas shortage even during the ransomware, but because everyone panic buyed gas, now there's actually shortages. So I could actually, honestly, I'd make the same argument that it doesn't matter if you can technically, if you know what you're doing, running on less SSDs. The fact that Chia is getting popular, and so everyone's essentially panic buying hard drives. Not only is now the energy is going to almost be, I feel like, the same level as Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's tanking due to a bunch of different things in terms of popularity, but you're also going against your environmental message, because again, you're going to be burning through a lot of these hard drives, even these ones that are rated to use for a long time. And where the hell do these hard drives go when they become non-usable? They get dumped in India and China. What does that do? That ruins the environment. And so that's kind of one of the big issues here. Let's see. Your money, but that's how I want to use it. I use WD green disc. So let's see. So basically, some crap you have lying around will get you $4K in 2 months. Wow, that sounds terrible. I know. Probably, honestly, your better investment would be to open up something in New Jersey right now and start selling weed.
Yeah.
Basically, be able to make like $500,000 in the same amount of time.
Yeah.
At worst.
So yeah, I crunched the numbers, and as far as the power cost, it would be at least $600 to just run the hard drives constantly in order to get a Chia return.
Yeah. And see, this is why I think if they did something, they screwed up. This probably would have made sense when the entire network was like 1 or 2 terabytes. Not the size it currently is at. That's the problem. Everyone's jumping in on this. And God forbid if Elon Musk mentions Chia.
Yeah.
The entire thing will crash. Like, I mean, they'll get to that exobyte really goddamn not the exo. What's Yoda byte really goddamn fast? If that happens.
I don't think there is a Yoda byte of storage on Earth. I don't know.
We also didn't have pigs that could talk with computers and falling dribs from space, but thanks to Elon Musk.
Yep.
See, oh God, Jack just wrote, I'm going to bottle the Pat and Jay smell and sell it on bottles. You laugh, but people drink Malort. Honestly, you could probably that smell and sell it as like a cologne of Hoboken. In fact, they even have a blog article where they kind of convinced. Well, this was actually more of like they had like their own like the little generic plant image down here. They had their little own thing where they were like you get to meet up and talk with the people about farming and electricity usage in Chia. So I originally had an actual order. I was gonna go through this, but I got a little scatterbrained because of the 10 minutes of BS. So please bear with me, everybody. But let's quickly get back to the other half of sort of like how it kind of does. Let's find it here. The other hashes. Try where the hell did I put this thing? Here we go. Here we go. This is it. So they do have an entire consensus doc that kind of explains everything. Funny enough, done in Google Docs.
Of course.
Because there's no way in hell people can fake credentials and edit that. My favorite thing about this, and unfortunately I can't find the page that's on that links to this because my brain's all stupid. Chia so promotes the fact that this is a much greener solution, they actually call this a green paper. As opposed to a white paper. Yeah. Okay. Could they've just said this is our paperless documentation, like, you know.
Well.
But yeah, so when they're talking about, because we're going to get into this when I watch Cell essentially be like, what the fuck? That part's going to be funny. When they talk about things, because they have their own terminology, basically, to some degree, like when they're talking about how each block is a puzzle and that puzzle gets solved in order to do the mining for the miniature cloud network you have, what they're doing is they're using BLS signatures, following IETF certifications. Oh, that's another thing, by the way. So if you probably have noticed here, farmers are the nodes that they use. The nodes that do the consensus are called Time Lords.
Okay. Right.
We're dealing with agricultural British doctors.
Yeah. in their blue police box.
Yes. So with BL signatures, I just want to bring up this thing about sort of their architecture of how all this cryptographic stuff works, and then we're going to jump into my favorite part that I can't wait for. See, literally what I said like in like an hour, and it's like so we're like almost done. Because the fun part is now I don't know if we're gonna be able to run code today. I would like to try. If we do run code, I'm gonna repeat the warning of if the stream crashes, that's why. But they have a whole thing. In fact, I'll post the URL of it in chat for how the key architecture works with the BLS. Platitudes disguise the lack of substance. Yeah, it sounds like a new bloat. So, my own opinion, by the way, not DCG201's opinion. So, I'm kind of going to go... I originally had a more detailed explanation of this, but my brain is dead. But this is sort of like an overall image of how the BSL keys work. There are particularly BSL 12-381 private keys. And we're following, again, the IETF specification, mainly the IP2333 spec for deriving the keys, and then the 44 to register the keys. And the private keys are in 32 bytes, public keys are in 48 bytes, and the signatures are in 96 bytes. I feel like there's an Atari Jaguar commercial in that description.
Yeah.
Chia, do the math! But this is sort of how it's... And you probably saw that word. That's going to be the end bit. We're going to get to that literally in probably about 5 to 6 minutes. So the way they have this configured is it generates a 24-mnemonic world, and then it goes to the master SK, and then it's split into 3 different parts here for the key derivative, where we have the Farber SDK, that's that pool of memory, and then the pool's overall SDK, and then the one for the wallet. So it basically has a 3-way. It works. And then this is sort of, they use the SHA-256 because I guess that will never die. Even though we have higher SSA keys, 256. Do you think maybe there's like a network limitation or coding limitation why they may have used 256, or did you think they just went for the defaults?
They probably went for a default with that.
Now that you said that, that does make sense, because I know they really want people to develop on this mainnet. So they probably just use the most standard. Yeah.
Well, SHA-256 should be alright.
Yeah.
Foreseeable future.
I'm not saying there's like a huge security flaw in it. I just find it hilarious. It's kind of like in the lock world where like there's like absolute bangers of how to design locks for like high security, but like most locks out there are basically flat bidding with 1 pin off.
Another reason they probably went with SHA-256 is because it's accelerated by modern CPUs. Like Intel has dedicated instructions for it.
That's why you can use CPUs and GPUs in order to,
And like he just said, there's probably going to be FPGA miners and crap like that for just doing this.
Especially with this is getting popular, so that's going to sort of boost this.
Yep.
Here's the overall thing for the architecture. Yep, that's fine. I'm actually debating because I have one last video to play, and I don't know if I should play this on a break or at the end.
Yep.
So yeah, it's sort of how they kind of set up the architecture for doing those type of keys, which they call puzzles. Just puts everything together. Up, we have a thingamajigga to do that.
This is an FPGA. This could be used for mining bitcoins or Chia or anything really.
Yeah.
Not that I would, because it's A, kind of small, and B, I kind of would rather use it for like
useful
video games
things,
and cool stuff.
Actual useful things that we would get pleasure out of, and not in that way.
And like developing hardware.
Maybe
but these are generally used for this kind of stuff because it's reconfigurable logic. You can take what's on it and change the function of it in code rather than having to run a whole new chip or, remanufacture it. And it just has a Cyclone 5 FPGA combined with an ARM chip. So the thing with these is they're cool, but they get really expensive if you want to go for the big, functions. But what I could imagine seeing is FPGA miners, like Bitcoin miners and stuff, being repurposed for this kind of stuff. What I would rather see is, because they've been getting cheap on the secondhand market, repurposing them for actual FPGA stuff and like research and development.
Again, like actual useful things with our time. So that's going to go back to the screen, and I only have basically a thing that's going to cover a minute, and then I'm going to ask Cyril a question, and then we're going to look at some code.
Yeah.
So, and again, because this is getting popular, I already pointed out the calculator here. But let's see this thing. But there's also 2 other resources for Chia if you want to check things out. There's the Chia Explorer, which sounds like the worst thing you could find at the Animal Kingdom in Walt Disney World. Where they kind of do a better job of tracking what's going on with Chia than the default website. And actually, which is really neat, is let's actually see, because I've been wanting to see, I forgot to bring up CoinGecko or whatever to see what the actual price is. So if this link does not work, I will actually bring up CoinGecko and we will look at all of that. And again, since we're basically somewhere between halfway to 2/3 of the show, this is going to be a very short episode. But unless we try to run the test net or something, that would be fascinating. If you like the stuff that you can see, you can hit that bell on YouTube so that you can always get the updates. But regardless, you can share, or follow on Twitch, D Live, or YouTube. Also, hi everyone out there who's unfortunately on Facebook, and all the awesome people out there on Diode Zone, as well as the super elite hackers that are watching this through NVIDIA on YouTube, through Nvidius on Tor. You people are nuts, and we love you for it. So apparently, the chart doesn't work.
Well.
At least it did before, so either Chia tanked while we were talking, or it's just the whole loading. But what I can do instead, not just weird porn URLs pop up or something. How do you spell gecko?
Gecko.
Alright, fine. Be that way. I'll just search for it. It's also probably some minor lag here. But what I will say is, so while I try to attempt to... No! Oh, now the thing loads. So that's a brief look at the graph before the URL pops through. And so while this is loading, because we're going to quickly check the price on this, I'm going to show one website and get into this. I basically, so I didn't know I was going to show off the whole thing, but I do have something about hard drives. It's a pre-recorded video and it takes 10 minutes. I was originally going to use that as a break if we needed it. Do you want to go on that break and then we come back and look at the code, or?
It's up to you.
Okay. I think we should just go straight into it, and I'll play that video at the end to round out the thing, right at the end. All right, so we'll go on to CoinGecko. Now, I'm not, by the way, nothing on DEF CON 201, unless we announce it, is sponsored. So, I like using CoinGecko because people ask, why don't you use Coin Market Share or whatever? They're basically, here's Flame Wars. They're basically the same site, and now arrows fly towards me. I don't know. I think CoinGecko, for the most part, except for, actually, it's loading better than I thought. I just personally think it loads better. I feel like it has a bit more, obscure coins and stuff. It also has this dark mode that I like. So let's see if we can find it. There it is. They have IOUs now. Great. I think that's going to become more popular if this thing tags.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see there's all red numbers except for Cardano and Polkadot. Polkadot's rising probably because of what's coming up. So currently, okay, so it's currently down, but yeah, see, with all the mining, look at that number.
Huh.
That's how much it's worth now.
Wow.
So this used to be a shitcoin that was 0.8 zeros and something, and then literally in the span of 2 to 3 weeks, that's how much mining's been happening. Which, honestly, again, while this seems like a good number, again, with the amount, because of that inflation, and that gold rush, essentially, with the amount of miners, and thus the amount of electricity and time and resources and potential blowing out, and hard drives you're going to be putting back into the ground, essentially, which will ruin the environment, I don't think this is worth it. Basically, the way I can kind of sum up the way I feel about with Chia, and it's very interesting tech stuff that we're going to look at in a second, even with some of the stuff I subscribed so far, I feel like Chia is one of those things, it's the same thing with most financial tech stuff, or tech stuff in general, where they made a decent, although not probably completely well thought through, solution for... let me know what's not accurate, and if it's not accurate, let me know why it's not accurate in the chat. I don't know what they said that mine wasn't accurate. I feel like that they made a decent concept solution, and then kind of do that thing that scientists do, where it's oh yeah, we forgot humans are assholes. And so it's because there was no solution to the human problem. The human problem came in and ruined the entire tech problem. Again, it's like the whole Zoom thing where all the people, the engineers for the security at Zoom apparently knew exactly what they were doing. The price. Let me know what the actual price is if it's wrong. I'm trying to think of what you call it. Where, you know, they apparently had a good idea about like what the thing was, and then their lead CEO who doesn't know anything about tech came in, said a bunch of stupid stuff, and ruined their whole platform. Like that tends to happen all the time. Oh, it's already okay. Yeah, it's already. I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. My apologies. Yeah. Because if I remember correctly, the way the mainnet was launched, this has always been. Now I will debut. I don't remember it being in the thousands, but it did have an actual value that wasn't in like the pennies. I was thinking of something else that I was actually thinking of Polkadot for some reason. Again, I apologize. The McDonald's thing has been crazy.
I mean, it is how most blockchain stuff starts, like the value being like 0.001 cent or something.
And also, if I remember correctly, in order to launch this project, I think they were given something like, I think it was $3 million to start this. Which even in the crypto world is like nothing to sneeze at. Like something that just came from like nothing to just $3 million.
Just out of curiosity, I've been installing Chia on my Chromebook just because bored. And this is all the dependencies it wants to install.
Yeah, we're gonna probably actually let me bring up the face screen. Can you show that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're probably gonna look at that in a moment.
It's like pretty much all the Node.js
It
stuff.
turned his screen white.
Yeah.
So so speaking without further ado, this is why I brought Siricel here. Let's look at some code stuff. So let me just make sure I have this scrolled all the way. Okay. So the big thing that's happened in the past couple of weeks is that it's back in March, sorry, is that they launched the Mainnet. And that was a whole big thing on there. Let's see. The use of SSDs and NVMEs drives is due to one current price, two human nature greed, rather than the original design to use regular HDs in the spare HDD space. Yes, that's what I mean. Like the concept itself, I felt like, especially when the network was smaller, was sound. But it's the same thing again. It's like there was no toilet paper shortage in the same way, even with the ransomware, there was no gas shortage. But because everyone panic buyed it, now we actually have them. So it honestly doesn't matter, in my opinion. You know, I mean, intent does matter, but it's like when your result is the opposite of your intent, that's an issue. And I really hope that Chia, like if they're up to snuff, I hope that they because I never want to like truly poo-poo anyone. I hope that they look at that and maybe like whether it's an open call or among themselves, like talk about potential things they can do on their end to attempt to limit that, whether it's putting more education stuff out there on how the network maybe, I don't know, do you think maybe there could be like a coding method where it senses if basically like if you're not using like cheap hard drives, and essentially if you're trying to use like a super one, it locks you out or whatever?
I mean, probably. I
can imagine everyone will start bitching though.
Yeah, and the other thing is it would probably like cap the market like arbitrarily,
right?
And that might not go over so well.
Like I said, when you deal with the human operating system, it's a tricky situation. It's like, quick, everyone pre-panic buy stuff now, do it now. See? Oh, that's where it is, green paper. They call it a green paper. Oh, and I forgot to actually move it over to the... There we go. So, here's what we're actually here for. So this is the GitHub. They have like 8 million repositories in the GitHub. And also, about with the GitHub, if you are on Twitch, I'm going to actually put their GitHub link in the chat here. And here we go. And I just want to note too, because I don't know, like, you know, I'm not saying that the Chia network's like the worst thing in the world or anything. It's every time if you've seen previous episodes of this show, I always have positives and negatives based on my own research and stupidity. So like, you know, what am I trying to get with here? So, you know, I'm not saying like this is the worst thing in the world. It's just these are, you know, legit concerns just by looking at the design and what's been happening for some of these things. And that's what I'm hoping for is, you know, what you do on a project, you get a ticket, you investigate it, and then you solve it so you can get rid of the ticket. Like that's what I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing the Chia network do. But yeah, this is the GitHub. And if you're on Twitch, we have a little GitHub widget, and we have 3 things pinned up there. So while we can't obviously put all 8 million repositories on Twitch, we do have the 3 main ones. With one of them is the Chia blockchain itself, which I'm going to jump into real quick. And then I'm going to use that to springboard into kind of what it's made out of. We also, I believe, have the CLM, the default one, not the Rust one, because that's the CLM VM is kind of based on what they sort of did in order to make this work. And then we have a really cool thing that I'm going to show at the end. So the main thing I just want to show here is the base Chia blockchain. Waiting for that to load. And again, if you like all the content that you see so far, and you also want to get notifications for future shows such as Master of Unlocking, Archvile Links Perspective, Circuit Breakers, any of our specials like the one that's going to happen this Thursday, wink wink, hint hint, as well as our meeting, which is this Friday on May 21st. You can, if you're on YouTube, you can hit that bell in order to make sure you get the notifications, but mainly like, share, subscribe on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. And as we've been doing, we get notifications for those, and we cheer people on, especially on DLive. And you see this has been updated a lot. Because again, once we get 6 more followers on DLive, we get to become crypto superstars, and we get to do a lot more with the not just for crypto barons, we get to do a lot with the DLive account in general. One day I'll go through all the perks of it. I just want to quickly read chat. Intel is going to be in the thousands of XP range. It won't be profitable for people who buy SSDs and make massive home farms. Yeah, I know that's kind of the base problem with a lot of cryptocurrency in general. Again, this is a finance problem, which is, you know, the people who are going to get the most finance are all the people who are already financially well equipped to make. Basically, again, that's why they say you have to have money to make money, you know, and like that's been a huge issue for a lot of these. Yeah. Street finds its own use for things that matter the original intent of the design. I know about that, but I think it's important for designers to, and this is also why it's good to have like a lot of true diversity on a project in terms of like the amount of people from like different backgrounds. You want to have like someone who does like art design, and someone who like, you know, like has their own independent business store, another person who runs a corporation or something, because you should really sit down and like think of as many of these things as possible, try to minimize all the potential problems that could happen here. So yeah, this is their main blockchain. If we can do the breakdown thing, it's pretty much, it's 99.1% Python, and I don't know what the 0.9% other, maybe it's like
maybe Node.js,
leftover Fortran or something like that. But yeah, and they list all their kind of what their description is, and we're gonna look at the installation thing, because I think this will be the first thing CRSL is gonna laugh at, and then we're gonna get into the meat and potatoes of the whole of this entire stupidity here. So let's see. This should be the install. Yes, it's gonna use your hard drive. So it's like if you have a good size, it's gonna keep like blockchain's usually slow. This thing is like, yeah.
But I'm just building it. I haven't even run it yet.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Well, also all of those dependencies. So
Holy hell.
while he installs that, did you look at the install instructions before you did this? Okay. So you're probably gonna have less of a reaction, because I told you like they built this to attempt to run this on everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do mean everything, so I'll show this in chat in a moment. Let's see. It's only profitable people who already have the equipment for other reasons. Again, that's why I believe when they were doing which I can actually remove these tabs now. Come on, Mr. Lag. This has nothing to do with like Firefox or anything. It's literally like after this stream, the computer is going to take a nice nap that it deserves. But yeah, if you look up after the stream when Linus Tech Tips, just look up Linus Tech Tips burst, and he goes through. I think he grows a beard the entire time, that famous beard that he has, trying to mine this stuff.
You know what might also be causing some of the lag?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these tabs might actually be trying to mine in the background.
I honestly doubt it, because I know what tabs are open and stuff. No, this was running perfectly. It's actually a combination of this thing's been kind of running for too long, and the fact that this is why I normally don't do the 2 different streams.
Okay.
Because it literally like halves its entire process in order to do it.
I do have a new computer on the way to replace this one, so...
So first of all, the minimum specs for everything that they recommend is a quad-core 1.5 gigahertz CPU, and it must be 64-bit, 2 gigs of RAM, and Python 3.7 above. I will give them this credit, okay? At least it's by default Python 3. Because if you remember past episodes of Crypto Barons, as I try to unfreeze this, you will know how many times we've tried to run things and everything is still set to Python 2, which has been depreciated forever. So we're going to say something because right now we're in like a weird lag mode.
Yeah, so right now I have it installed on here on my computer and it is about to load up. Okay, connecting to wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. I hope it's not going to start using my hard drive space already, considering
I think it does prompt.
Okay, good. Because this Chromebook I'm running on...
Python 2 will never die.
Yeah. So, cool thing about Chrome OS, you can create containers for different Linux stuff in Chrome OS. Mm-hmm. Not by default, but I kind of hacked it to do that way.
Come on.
Oof. And,
it crashed.
Yeah, it crashed. Womp womp.
Let's try this again.
So I have it. I have a virtual environment set up just for running the Chia stuff, just because I didn't want it contaminating the rest of the environment. Mm-hmm. And I only gave it like 2 gigabytes to work with because it should be enough, right? Well, it's already running up on that, and I have about 94% of it's used up already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm not kidding that when you do this is why most people have dedicated hard drive racks. It will like instantly eat up the remaining hard drive space. All right, so I'm trying to think here. So I have an idea.
Okay.
Since I don't really need the note sheet anymore. I'm going to try to use the note sheet because there's way less tabs open on it and it's like a stripped down version of Firefox.
Okay.
The computer is still being weird, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was my fault. I was literally supposed to turn it off last night and I completely forgot. So let's try this. So I'm going to do... come on. And then I'm gonna, so just give us one moment. I'm just gonna try to switch this over here. Yep, it's already switched over. Yay! Because it does that default kind of block down thing. Now, unfortunately, you're gonna see white screens here because I'm not logged in order to do this. But yeah, it literally they literally tried to design this to install this on everything. So again, the minimum specs is a 1.5 gigahertz CPU quad core, must be 64-bit, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and Python 3.7.
Like a Raspberry
Yep.
Pi.
Drive support. It's funny you mentioned that. Drive support is let's see, Chia plot files are at least 108 gigabytes in size for K32. The plot basically needs all the files, the NFTS, APFS. I almost read that as NFTs because I'm so used to seeing that on the news. XFAT, ext4, etc. Do not use drives with FAT formatting, or else plotting will fail. Mm-hmm. Future versions of Chia will... I read that entirely wrong. Future versions of Chia will check for unsupported drives, but will not now because... Okay, I'm not going to lie. This is what my brain read it as. Future versions of Chia will check for unsolicited dick pics. Which it probably will do eventually, I might add. That's the future we're heading toward. Yeah, and like I said earlier, sleep kills plots.
Yep.
The Chia process takes multiple hours to complete. If the computer or hard drive goes into sleep during the plotting process, the plotting will fail and you need to start over and the plot thickens. So there's a default Windows client, which, by the way, that was going to be my choice, is that the easiest way to do this on here would just be to use the Windows client. Again, I don't think we're going to be running... We might try to connect to the mainnet, but I don't think we're going to run any code. We're just looking at it for this episode. They also have, support for Mac OS Mojave. I almost read that as Mojave because I think of it like the Minecraft company. Minecraft Mojave or a 10.14 or higher. And you can also build it using Brew. Let me just make it. Let's do what she said. Make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Yeah. So that's all the thing there where you're cloning it over, and then you're using the install SSH. You know, it's typical Unix stuff. And then this is the part that would be very interesting to attempt to do on here, which is Ubuntu Debian. And I love that they read, we have an experimental GUI installer. That's the last thing I want to hear, especially on Linux. The words experimental GUI and installer.
Yeah.
All my brain reads is crash.
Crash and burn.
Memory wipe. But yes, for Ubuntu 18.04 and Debian Brew and newer, this is sort of all the code you can do that with. We're going to scroll down a bit more. It's a lot of... Did you have to do all these instructions to get it running, or?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. This is like the traditional like Linux like thing you see where it's like click on the Windows installer, click on the Mac installer, enter 80 commands in order to kind of make this work. They also apparently have experimental GUI installer for CentOS, Red Hat, Fedora, that full family. You can run it in Windows subsystems for WLS2 support, but you can't run the GUI version. It would just all be in terminal. And they gave a little code for PowerShell to check to see if you actually have it, and then how to actually set it up. And this is all the stuff you have to put in to set up the allergies are kicking in for the WSL2 instance. And then so blurb about maximum storage capacity. Because that's going to be an issue for the whole virtualization on that. This is the one that threw me off. I actually never heard of this, and I had to look this up. Because it's like, what is an Amazon Linux 2? That sounds like one of those, like LGR when he finds, like, bootleg versions of, like, Microsoft Word and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, Amazon Linux 2, now with more... now with more GNOME or something like on the packaging, and I realized, oh, it's a cloud server. You can install it on an Amazon cloud server.
Yeah,
like it's basically your own deployed cloud server.
Yeah,
if you want to do that.
If you wanted to make a machine that shovels money into a fire pit, you can do that.
Oh, I thought that was just I just thought that was the New Jersey Treasury Commission. And then they also have guides for other installment things such as Raspberry Pi, Docker, FreeBSD, an Ubuntu binary install, and an OpenBSD install. You can also just create a virtual environment for it.
Neat.
And then that's the weird way to do test nets on it. But, so that's like the 8 million ways to install it. Now, I'm tempted to try to do the Windows subsystem thing just to see what happens.
Yeah.
And plus, we can always just kill those and reset them up. And normally, I would actually do a VM and try to install it with the VM, but with the way the machine's running, I don't think I do it. But now we've kind of reached near the end here, and this is what everything was building up for. So, you're probably wondering what sort of popsicle sticks and gum they used to build this whole thing. Well, apparently, the team went, hey, Lisp, nobody likes that language. This is a good idea. Let's mutate it and make our own version of Lisp to build all of it.
Oh, Lord.
So they made ChiaLisp. So it says here, ChiaLisp is a powerful and secure Lisp-like, the term you don't want to see, language for encumbering and releasing funds with smart contract capabilities. So essentially, I believe what they did was they took Lisp and added, well, first of all, they used their own terminology, hence the puzzles and stuff, and then they also mutated it. So basically, it's similar to like when we looked at, trying to remember what it was called, I forgot the name of it. What was it called? Like Solitude or whatever. Where we actually looked at a computer language that was designed for smart contracting. So instead of using a pre-existing one, they just took Lisp, and instead of making Lisp the all generic annoying language that it is, they just mutated it so it just works in smart contracts.
I love how one of the functions they have defined is just def constant.
Yes. Yes, I'm trying to. Yes, def constant right here.
Yeah.
I wonder which group is that. It's like, hi, we are the nation of Stant. But But yeah, I thought I would, as someone who is familiar with Lisp and has also gone to the Lisp NYC meetings and stuff, which I heard are actually really like nice and cool people, for real. You know,
if you're genuinely interested in Lisp, that's probably one of the better ways to get into it, because the alternatives include listening to weird bearded men go on about Emacs.
the sad part is there's a segment of the audience that just took off their pants when you said all of that. Because welcome to the internet and weird hacker people that make this sort of stuff in the basement of their parents' basement.
Well,
So, but yeah, and also I believe now obviously things are changing, but I believe at least all the past since 2000. I'm so old. 2020. All their meetings have been online.
Yes.
If I remember quickly, what, like through Zoom or something.
Yeah, they host
Yeah.
them online through Zoom, and oftentimes they show up on YouTube. So yeah, look them up. Lisp NYC.
So hey, Emacs are amazing. Everything but my pinkies love it. Yes, the indent language that goes on forever. You know, actually, that would be a good point where it's like, yes, Lisp, of course, it's being used for blockchain because you can mine blocks like the way Lisp mines spaces. So, but yeah, I thought it would be neat because I think they have like they cover all the different stuff on this. So I thought we'd click through some things
They
and
have
see
a
if there's something
video
that
on
picks up.
developing in it.
Yes. That was going to be my alternative. It's like 40 minutes long.
Dang.
So let's see here. Let's see what the introduction post is like, because I thought this would be kind of funny as like somebody who's familiar with Lisp to like
Hello, Bram Cohen.
see other stuff. Yes. I feel like we're setting up some weird Pokemon fight. Control button, why so low? So let's see what they said here. We just launched our first version of the ChiaLisp language in our on-chain program environment. That's a sentence which introduces a new and much better approach to building a smart contract. That has literally been every sentence of every computer language that tries to do smart contracts.
Yeah.
So let's see the overview. Let's see the two general approaches, smart transaction environment so far, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which he's referring to the UTXO model and the Solidity. That's what I meant to say, Solidity model. Solidity is the programming language that's dedicated to just making smart contracts. Yep. As he says here in the UTXO data model, the only data which needs to be kept by the servers is the current set of unspent coins and their birth dates, okay, their hash generation, the date that's added. Yep. And the transactions, which only spend some couple of coins and create others. We went through that in, I believe, episode 1 and also when we covered Solidity itself. The Solidity model, by contrast, huge amounts of on-chain state, including running programs and their effects on transactions, and they can't always be determined before it actually runs. So let's see. What he says here is, we've figured out with ChiaLisp and surrounding CLVM, that's why I have it forked over, how to keep, so their idea is to keep the UTXO model, but add the general power of Solidity. So basically, they took UTXO and Solidity and went, and now kiss. Says they wrote here, this is done with us. Okay, if you have the word Lisp in your name, I don't want to hear this is done with a set of simple anything. Simple cleanups which individually do not do much, but combined add something very powerful. Yeah, because one of the weird things we'll talk about in a second is that you can color coins on this thing. That's like an advanced thing you can do on here. Let's see. Yeah, see, this is the term requirements of all puzzles. That's why I was warning about the terminology earlier. It's like Rut's Hut, but for like cryptocurrency, where they have their own goddamn language. For all you don't know out there, Rut's Hut is basically a super old prototype version of White Castle that never franchised, and they have really awesome food, and all their food, like the equivalent on the West Coast, I guess you could say, even though they are a chain, is like, not in terms of food, but in terms of this, is like, if you ever went to an In-N-Out burger, you probably know that they have their own language for all the food there. Rut's Hut's the same thing, where you say something in English, and then they translate it to the chefs in the back, and it's just their own goddamn language. So let's see here. Okay, so that is just him lying about it. Let's see if I can bring up some examples here. So let's see. So we can download it in tark.gz format. Let's see. Compiler repository. Let's click around here. Going to get this is the thing that I shared. Oh yeah, it just has that. So let's see. Should I look at CLVM itself or look to see what the tests are? Both have not been updated in a month.
Looking at CVM itself.
It's a lot of Python.
It's mostly Python.
Yes.
In fact, it's all Python.
Yes.
What does init do?
Right.
Okay, so...
Gonna make this a little bigger.
Uses a library called sex for S expression.
We have DEF CON and sex, thanks to Chia. There we go, now it's super huge.
Okay, so that's pretty much it setting itself up. So there should be a file called sexp.py up in the repository.
Okay.
So
I'll try to find it.
There it is.
Yep.
Bingo. So this should be pretty much what makes CLVM Lisp. And in here we have, yeah, it's setting together a tuple with,
And go really slow.
looks like it's just a bunch of internal types that they throw onto the stack, and it's pretty much a Lisp. It's a Lisp just written in Python. It yeah, it handles lists and
Also, hi, Dark Arts Lockpicking. Thank you for joining us on the non-lockpicking show.
So, yeah, it is very much just Lisp, but with its own types wrapped around it, so that it can function on a blockchain.
Mhm.
So
what?
yeah.
So what you're saying is that they basically went like, can I copy your work? Yeah, but just change some things up so it doesn't look like you're copying. Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
I wonder if we could find anything that was like super specific to this version. This like, I don't even know if I want to call it a version. Maybe sort of like a style or outline
Can I
of this
take over the
language.
mouse?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can switch.
You can sit there. I just need
Okay.
a mouse.
We can switch positions if you want,
All right.
because it's kinky.
I'm gonna look at this here. So this references import G1 element from VLSpy from .as Python CLVM object. Let's see here. So wait, I thought I could jump to it. I guess I have to do that manually.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also, I'm not
CLVM
logged in,
object.
so that might be a logged in thing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a type that defines how and where its contents are stored in a heap. Okay, so.
That sounds very New Jersey. It's being stored in a heap.
Yeah, yeah. So, not too much to look at here. Looking for something that makes it very particularly Chia about it. So.
Let's see. Dark Arts just said, I'm interested in a lot of different stuff. Just started looking into RFID and the author devices and stuff. Yeah, well, eventually I'd like to, maybe we'll do a hybrid master of locking circuit breakers like towards the end of the year where I actually look at like alarm systems, you know? Because I'm learning that too, because this is all new to me.
Here we go. So this is how ChiaLisp is serialized into data that's thrown onto the blockchain. Basically turns it into a byte representation that, you know, compactly describes what it's doing, where it is on the stack, if it's a cons, if it has a nil or not, and yeah, it just boxes in every cons and runs it through, you know, as a Lisp would.
Gone!
Instead of parsing the input stream, function pulls out all the bytes that represent an S expression tree. So, yeah.
What is an S expression tree?
So an S expression is what makes a Lisp a Lisp. It's an expression that contains data and a function on that data as a list of two elements. And most things in Lisp are just those chained together. So you have it so where you can have one function and you just break it down into its constituent functions or cons, and those make up an S expression tree, which are the foundational basis of what makes a Lisp a Lisp.
So let's see. So there's some developer documentation here. So CLMV is compiled minimal version of ChiaLisp that's used on Chia network. Full set of the full set of operators here.
Okay. What do we have here?
I think
Yep.
contract language virtual machine. Well, that's how you're gonna get the cloud on the hard drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the
So,
opcodes. Yeah.
Let's look at the opcodes.
Okay.
So, yep. Cons, first, rest, list P, and then your control flow stuff.
Another thing to bring up, because I don't know if we want to actually try to do the frickin' tar file, but apparently there's two different uses in terminal, and since I'm very unfamiliar with Lisp, I don't know if this was actually based off of Lisp. They use brun and run, essentially divided into a lower language and a higher language use case.
Okay.
So like apparently the brun is what actually runs the the blockchain on the cloud network, while the run part is the superset, and it has additional operators, and that compiles to the brun.
Okay. So basically like a bootstrap language.
Yeah, which is probably why it eats up your hard drive so fast.
Well,
Are these all standard, or does anything jump out at you?
it's pretty standard for what you have in a usual Lisp language. See, the thing about Lisp, okay, here's one that's special. SHA-256 and DivMod. So they added some functions into this Lisp language that are very characteristic of a blockchain specific language. So you can generate the SHA-256 of a series of bytes handed to the function in the language. It's just there. The cool thing about Lisp is that it being sort of an agglutinative kind of language as it is, you can redefine functions in the language using the language.
Probably one of the reasons why they chose it.
Yeah. So it has intrinsic reflection based on that, which allows people to review and understand every bit of how the compiler understands itself.
If Lisp NYC starts off a vaporwave band made of its members,
Yeah.
I just forgot the term that you used, the something function.
To be fair, I forgot what I was talking about.
Ah, this is totally Lisp, and also
Yeah.
TCG 201.
So
Something reflections.
reflections.
Yeah.
Intrinsic reflection.
Yeah, that's the name of the vaporwave band.
Yeah.
Intrinsic
Yeah.
reflections.
Yeah.
The Lisp NYC vaporwave band.
Mm-hmm.
That you should plan that on your next meeting. I call dibs on tambourine because I'm like, or the mascot. So, because I wouldn't be useful at anything else. So, out of all these, those are the only two unique operators they've added in. Everything else is standard.
It looks mostly standard. I mean, these are just things that anyone would add to their own Lisp to make it more flavorful, to make it more full as a language. But the very basic stuff, you have cons, first, rest. Those are built on the building blocks of a cons, a car, a seeder, which is the thing before and the thing after the function that you're instancing.
Here's an interesting thing. So, a lot of people don't know, even though that was one of the first videos we uploaded to YouTube and our Internet Archive and stuff like that. I'm going to add it onto PeerTube soon. Is that you're making your own variant that's called Stutter, and so my question is how would this contrast to what you're currently building?
Okay, Stutter is a not Lisp.
Not Lisp, yes.
Yeah, it's it combines a lot of the flavor of Lisp, how it handles stack calls and listifies function groups and transformations between lists like that. But it's more of a fourth syntax in that it's agglutinative. It's based on frames of stack traces that are then transformed using other frames of functions and stack traces.
So this is the CLMV. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. CLMV tools, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where it has a higher level and lower level, and you have to run all this bullshit, and then use the brun to execute the code to it. And then this is the thing on the compiler here.
Okay.
It's a superset. and that adds several operators, which
So-
is weird because I wish they would say which operators they added. Maybe
Yeah.
it is the SHA and the
Maybe.
yeah.
The thing about Lisp as it is that you only need a very small kernel or a small core group of functions to be implemented for the rest of the language to use as the native code. So, like, granted, you could implement large high-level functions as native code for performance reasons to get, faster code execution. But if it's in the language, it's more than likely going to be represented as groupings of these base kernel functions that make up a Lisp. So, being that you could essentially have a Turing-complete language with only 8 functions, like the brainfuck language, Lisp can do something similar. JavaScript can do something similar. Any of these languages where you have a distinct object and cascading function model. So, where you have inheritance and compliance to precursor functions with prototypes and things like that. JavaScript does that. To an extent, Lisp does that. Any of these kind of languages, they generally can be built on a very small kernel, and that's great for cryptocurrency because you want to have the minimum amount of code running on the network.
Right, otherwise it's going to get even more bloated.
Yeah, it'll bloat the
Yeah.
network, it'll cause transactions to be slow, and it'll cause the amount of code base that you need to be running on the local host
Looking at you, Bitcoin.
to be much larger and more impractical.
Looking at you, Bitcoin Core.
Yeah. Well, granted, Bitcoin isn't
It's not the worst.
It's
Yeah.
not computationally based,
Right.
so it's only a proof of work. Therefore, it doesn't have to do a core kernel of functions because it only has one function. Is this hash colliding with this hash? If so, you've got a block.
And also, I can imagine they only want to use one kernel on this to maximize not only the processing rate of the hard drive, but also maximize the amount of space on the hard drive.
Right. So, one of the things about how Chia farming seems to work, just from what I've seen so far, because I did no research before this. This
Right.
is completely off the top of
I did research. He's going in completely blind. Yeah.
So, a Chia plot is about 108 gigabytes of space, roughly,
Yeah.
on a drive. And when you do farming, you set out multiple plots and fill your hard drives with them. Each of these plots has a computation that is intrinsic to its, how it handles its data. And so
And
you
those are the puzzles.
yeah, right. So you can program your own puzzles from the looks of it using CLVM and write your own Lisp code that does things like, say, if you wanted to verify a transaction or confirm an NFT or something like that, or if you're doing like electricity metering and you want to have a verified source of like a not a proof of stake, a proof of like that something's signed by the host of
Proof
the
of authentication.
an authentication.
Yeah.
So you would want to have a program specifically do that for you, and you can write that in, say, ChiaLisp and run it on the network.
And I think this is why they also wanted their own language, and they wanted Lisp and Python so it's flexible, because essentially what they're using ChiaLisp for is now that the mainnet is launched, they want people to essentially develop decentralized applications or dApps on that network, and that's giving them the ability
and
to
so
do
like
it.
the one application that they have for ChiaLisp is the colored coins, and
Yes.
like they have the ChiaLisp coinage itself as an application under ChiaLisp, so it's like, okay, that's neat, but practical uses are pretty much they're here and there based on blockchain kind of stuff. So like Ethereum does a similar thing where you can distribute computation through the network and consume electron coins, or electrum, I think it is,
Yes.
for providing the source or the fuel, quote unquote, for your application to run. That's why NFTs have the huge fuel, quote unquote, cost
Yes.
that they have. And it's kind of funny that they tried to make it sound like, oh, well, you're spending fuel to drive to pick up an auction that you're, but really it's just fuel going into the machine to generate the NFT.
Yes.
So, but Chia seems to do something in a different way, where rather than generating fuel that goes into a black box virtual machine,
Mhm.
ChiaLisp runs as a characteristic of
Right.
the network in general, using the stocks of storage as state transitions for each of the Lisp operations being run, and a ChiaLisp program chains those states together to form a working program, and those chains of states are what promulgate through the network as being hashed and certified.
It's that's why, to me, the super unique thing about Chia is not really the proof of storage, because we've seen those types of cryptocurrencies before. It's the fact that it's using proof of storage in addition to it essentially being it's like a blockchain that's essentially virtualized in a cloud network that's localized on your machine, that's then linked up
you
to
load
others.
a computational node on your computer that's running a fragment of state in the program that's being executed across the whole network. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Proof of storage has been around forever. I used to use Walla, which
Oh man, I was gonna bring that up, but you go on.
back in like 2007 or 6, this company Walla came up with this cool concept where, all right, what if you donate part of your hard drive to cloud storage? In return, you get that hard drive space you donated as cloud storage. Everything's encrypted on that block that's on your drive, and we verify everything using... Now, they didn't have the term cryptocurrency back then, but it was cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
It was legitimately a fungible exchange of verified means by which your drive space was veritably on the network.
And if I remember correctly, they were basically using I'm not sure if they're cryptographic, but essentially computational or algorithm hashes to evaluate.
It was all hash based.
Yeah,
So,
to authenticate stuff. Yeah.
so everyone's files were encrypted on your drive, and then the hash of a block that you have on your drive was used as the basis for verifying that you now own a part of the Walla network, and you can upload your own information to that network. That was cool. That was actually really neat. It sucks that it had to run on Java.
I think that's the tagline of Java. This is great. Sucks that it's Java.
It used Java, and it used, what was that? There was a driver that basically did Fuse under Windows. Keybase uses it.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name either.
Yeah, but it was this driver that
Anyone else
used
that
up
knows
a
that, let us
lot-
know in chat.
Yeah. It's this driver that used up a lot of memory and a lot of resources in the background just to make a virtual drive on your computer.
Which says a lot, because it's already using a lot of memory because of that drive, and then it's using Java, the programming language that's notorious for using up all your memory in space. Yeah.
So, Walla were in a bit of a financial oopsie because they backed themselves into a corner with this cloud storage thing. So many people signed up that they didn't have, because they guaranteed your cloud storage, that it wouldn't be, willy-nilly. And that means that in addition to the network storing everything, they also had to provide their own cloud storage to back that onto. So your information would go to a cloud server first. Then it would be backed onto the network, and that would be your basis of, storage. So the cool thing about that would be, Walla gets to save on making backup tapes because the network's their backup tape. B, you get quote-unquote free cloud storage because you host your own backup for them, and they pay it off in the dividend based on how much storage you contribute.
I just had a really bad idea that I feel like is going to happen. I feel like someone is going to revive that as if it is new with the clouds, with the sharing of the cloud storage and everything.
Yeah.
Except it's Jason's son's going to do it, so he's going to pretend like he invented it, and it's going to be integrated into Tron.
Well,
because that's how this stuff works
so
sometimes. Unfortunately,
you had it up on the screen before. Chia.
Yeah.
It does that as a cryptocurrency basis, and it uses a bit more modern technologies, but it's it's not. I wouldn't say it's not backed by a company, but it's not backed by a not cryptocurrency company. It's
right.
It's like it's in the blockchain thing, so people are generally going to be skeptical if they're looking at it from a technology standpoint.
Right, and again, because there's so many shit coins and scams and stuff in the cryptocurrency realm, that's why when people think of it, they think of scams or overhypeness, which is Elon Musk.
But see, the problem with Voila was they backed themselves into a corner, ran out of cloud space, so they got themselves bought out by Lacey, and they maintained those storage servers for them and expanded it a bit, made a few more changes, brought in so there were paid tiered plans on Voila before Lacey got involved, but Lacey expanded on those and made them now the default, and really expected you to be shelling out money for cloud storage. They didn't want you donating your hard drive space.
Let's hope this does not happen to that. I am gonna with Chia, I'm gonna interject here and also say that again, if you like what's been going on in the chat, if you have any questions or comments that are appropriate or whatever, please listen in chat, because we love talking in the chat, because we're actually near the end here, so we're going to be wrapping up soon. Otherwise, it's always to keep lurking, keep learning. And also, if you like what you see so far and you want to know like the cool thing I'm about to announce, as well as our meeting coming up on the 21st and some of our other live shows and specials, you can click that bell on YouTube, and also like, share, subscribe on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. And as you've seen, we keep getting notifications, and please follow us on DLive. I really want to be a crypto superstar, so we can do all this really cool stuff, because I'm going to show him later all the stuff you get with that. It's really neat.
We're close. We're like at what, 94, 95?
Yeah, we just have six more people. Yeah. We're going to get there.
Follow us.
So I just want to go back to this a little bit. Since we're near the end anyhow, I just love there's a thing. Is that part of Lisp? There's an actual thing called defun.
That means define.
No fun allowed.
It stands for define function.
Yes.
It's what you use to define a function. Defun.
Defund the police.
Right.
So, so apparently there's a few more built-in operators. So instead of evaluating to run, you just use that. Is there a reason for that? Or?
It makes it easier to read the. It pretty much macros together a simple way to do the whole return as one.
Oh, okay.
Statement.
So it's kind of like how I know there's a technique where instead of doing like double quotations, you can do two spaces and a slash, but because it's a little bit harder for read, that's why a lot of people just do the double quotes instead of doing that, because a lot of people can't judge spaces very well. So
something like that.
And then there's an if.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, the Chinese. The QQ. I unquote that. And then macros, because what would a programming language be without fucking macros?
Yeah, Lisp is heavy on macros. It's pretty much the way you do things in Lisp is by macroing together. Go up a bit.
Okay.
So right here, that tiny function, just when it's demacroed, produces that whole line of crap on the bottom. You'd rather write the first than the second, but if you go up just a little bit more, so that is the macro definition, and it expands into a function that expands the macro.
Yep, and as I saw below, probably the most famous thing of people who don't know about Lisp like myself but see it, which is all the inlines. The inlines that go forever.
So Lisp is interesting in that way, because you put things together. It's kind of like Lego as far as code's concerned, whereas with C, whereas with C, you're generally like assembling functions and writing functional paradigms that, you know, it takes a bit of brain power to actually understand. With Lisp, you can literally just copy in, and as long as you have your parentheses straight, it's just putting together code. It's an agglutinative language.
Yep.
Fourth is pretty much the same way. Everything's just smacks together, and you can take those things that you just smack together, use them as functions, and smack those together.
I've never heard anyone, which I think is really neat, use the Lego explanation, and all my brain keeps thinking about is no wonder why it hurts when I step on Lisp.
Yeah.
So someone just asked, do you think ChiaLisp is good for smart contracts finance, particularly, meaning it's not going to... Oh, God. It is... Okay, so here's the thing to answer you later. Everything's hackable.
Yeah.
So there's no, we're not going to get hacked. You are going to get hacked. What you should be planning is preliminary defense and then detail your exit plan as much as possible.
Right. Like, we're not gonna make a statement that anything is not hackable or that anything is safe or good to invest in, because we're not that kind of crypto show. Yeah, it's like you know, there are things that are probably better set up than others or have like more planning or stuff, but like it's the same, like if you see what I have the show, it's the same thing with lockpicking. Every lock, unless it's actually broken, which that happens, can be picked open. It's just that some locks have better, well more thought out security than others, which is why some locks only take 12 seconds for lockpicking lawyer to pick open, while others he just blinks and they open. Yeah. So that's the difference. They're asking compared to Solidarity.
Yeah.
You probably have more. On that.
So again, funny enough, like with locks or just computers in general. So there's a saying among hackers of like, a lot of answers for a lot of things is it depends on your threat model. And what that means in a security sense is, okay, when you're designing the security, like who do you think is going to go after whatever the hell you're trying to protect? So like, for example, you know, your threat model or your type of security would be like, for like, if your plan, you have completely different methodologies and tools and equipment and setup for someone, you know, if you're trying to prevent someone from getting your house versus trying to prevent a toddler from sticking their tongue into the wall socket. Those are two different threat models. So you can also apply that to development and say it depends on what you are trying to build. And from what it seems, what I've seen so far, so might actually have a better answer than me with this, I would say that if you're trying to do something that more integrates with what's really common in the smart contract and blockchain world, and you want something that's absolutely dedicated to that, and you like learn the language once and that's it, probably Solidarity. It seems like what they're trying to do with ChiaLisp is that they're going more for kind of basically flexibility. So they're taking a more existing language and modifying it to be more particular to one type of function. And so they want this to be, you know, low footprint, more flexible, as opposed to, which I would say Solidarity is, which is kind of more like Python, where it's like a one solid language. You have to learn a bunch of new stuff, but once you learn that, that's it, and everyone else knows what it is. I mean, there's a lot of people who know what Lisp is too, but in terms of like that world, I think more people honestly would probably be more familiar with Solidarity than they probably would be at Lisp at this point, which is probably why this is like new to people.
And like the other thing is, I don't care what Rust heads might think. The language doesn't make it secure.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter. Like, writing insecure C code is easy. Mm-hmm. It's actually real easy to trip yourself up. Just miss a write to the wrong IO stream, or miss a null at the end of a string, and suddenly you're all over memory and you're lost. Mm-hmm. Now, the compiler might help. It might be friendly. It might tell you, hey, something's not right. You might have tools like ASAN or, what was that other one that shakes up the program? Begins with a V. Valgrind.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have things like ASAN and Valgrind that go in and they're like, okay, we put in all of the possible... As New Jersey drives by. We put in all of the possible inputs that this can take, and it looks like if you go above 7FFFF, it's going to crash the program and start writing into undefined memory, and this is undefined behavior. Right, C has a lot of that. Rust has less of that. It's still possible to write unsafe code in Rust.
Yes.
It's possible to write unsafe code in JavaScript, especially if your environment in JavaScript has the thing you're trying to keep separated from the insecure program, and the insecure program in the same browser window. Though they're in the same context, they can read and write across one another. So you have to be vigilant about that. Just because JavaScript is sandboxed away and it's in a corner of the computer that's not going to attack your kernel and read your passwords out from your password file. Well, if the passwords are in the JavaScript box with the other program,
Right.
they're just gonna open across
Put
each
the
other.
keys outside the door. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to, and I'm waiting actually while I say this, Jack to burst through the door and be like, but actually, because I often get, even though I'm not like obviously the best programmer, hence why I brought Cyricel here.
I'm not a programmer. I mean, I'm
You're
a
still better
programmer.
than I am.
I'm a programmer. I'm not a coder.
Yeah.
I don't write code.
It's but my whole thing is like I get a lot of people who often ask me like, you know, like what's I always hate this question because this is like one of those stupid questions. It's not a stupid question, but it's just one of those like I kind of wish people would give like what I feel like is the real answer instead of like the constant bullshit answers you get, which is like you know, like what language like should I learn to do? And it's sort of like, and it's the same it's like again, I'm going to bring up lockpicking where while there's different manufacturers and you want to have like good tools that you can work with, there's going to be a point where you have all the correct tools, and the reason why you can't open the lock has nothing to do with your equipment. It has everything to do with your knowledge of the lock and the skill to pick it open. Yeah. So like it's similarly where it's like there's some languages that I feel like they're kind of, especially if you look at something like, you know, like comparing C++ to Python in terms of readability for someone who's new. In my opinion, I think more people would be like, Python looks a bit more like what like I think human brains would think of rather than C, which kind of is just monkeys throwing poos at them. Not saying that C's bad. I'm saying that like because you know
bad.
Well, what I mean is it's an older language. You can actually kind of see like an evolution of how it, unless you're Swift from Apple. But what I mean by that is like I think like we tell people it's like unless your job or something tells you need to do this, like most jobs are like today are just like Python everything, so unless it's that, like just use whatever you're more comfortable with, because what most people are looking for in programs is not, you know, we shit talk languages mostly as a joke, like pretty much every language, but we're not like, no one's like gonna kind of be like, you know, do you really know Python? Like what most people would actually ask if they're worth their salt is can you actually do loops without them breaking? You know, do you know how to do subsets? Do you know how to like organize all your files? You know, again, it's like, you know, like you can like, you know, you can have a Porsche, but if you drive like you have 3 left hands and no feet, it doesn't matter how nice the car is.
Yeah.
So
it's like when I was learning to program, I started at the lowest level possible. I went straight to 6502 assembly. I was 7 at the time, and like, okay. Granted, a lot of people today look at that and they're like, wow, you're like super elite master programmer. But me at 7 learning to write in assembly, all it was okay, I'm instructing the computer to do things. I have a reference of where in memory I could write to make things happen, and I want to make certain things happen in a certain order. That's what programming is.
Yeah.
Functionally and basically, making the computer do things in a certain order is programming. So whatever tool you use for that, good for you. Ada, Python, Rust, C++, Fortran, COBOL, JavaScript, Python. I said Python again. There's 2 Pythons, that's why.
Yes. There's actually I think there's like actually 5 of them, but we don't talk about the other mutated ones.
There's Python 2 and Python 3.
Don't forget Dark Basic and Real Basic.
right, and Visual Basic.
And Commander's having a seizure right now.
And Rex.
Someone just... Yeah, but he runs 212. So we have in chat random question. We're literally almost done. Random question. Since you brought it up, do you think it's? I think I'm saying this because it's funny. Do you think Algorand is legit or a shitcoin? Tune in the next episode of Crypto
really?
Barons. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. That's so
boy.
funny you brought that up because it's like funny you should say that. But I just want to run through all of this real quick. So yeah, one of the things, because I remember researching on this, like the core apparently of ChiaLisp is like they basically, there's a lot of subsections, but the two things they divide it in is con boxes and atoms.
Yeah.
And so like the con boxes are all the Lisp objects, including all the lists and stuff, and then the atoms are all the variables and basically binary blocks.
And this is the important part.
Yeah.
A program is a list. That's big, because that's what makes a Lisp a Lisp.
And one of the reasons why this stream's going to be so short is because I read that as a program is actually just a list in Polish nations. And then math, because, you know, you're also doing that with programming. Oh, God, Booleanians, let's go. Okay, flow control. Skip that entire section. Flow control, list and programs. Yeah, even if someone who's like is not into Lisp, this looks like when I look at like Lisp, except again, it's the run and the B run thing is kind of like I don't normally see that for some reason. So I have no idea if like dividing it in two sections like that is standard or not. I mean, it makes sense, you know.
Well, like I mentioned, the basic difference between run and B run, from the looks of it, seems that B run composites everything down to that kernel subset, whereas run runs it as native Lisp code.
That's a good thing. I stopped that. It was a YouTube video. I didn't realize it. Like, good thing I stopped that from happening. So we basically reached kind of the end here. So I'm debating if I should even show that video. I just want to bring up one last programming thing here. So one last interesting thing that Chia has. Again, you said there's like only a couple. Cause well, see, that's the sad thing about Chia. In a lot of cryptocurrency stuff, like for example, I'm trying to remember when the Satoshi papers came out. I'm trying to remember what year that was.
I want to say 2009. I can look it up.
Yeah, it's like the very beginning of like the mid 2000s, and I know that the concept of all of this I think goes back to the 70s and 80s. It's just Satoshi really defined it better.
2008.
Yes, thank you. But the thing about that is that I say too many that's, is that you know, this sort of stuff, and essentially Bitcoin came out like years before it actually like people think that Bitcoin started when it skyrocketed, but it had been around for a while before that, because I remember used to being on forums and doing small experiments with the crappy machines that I had, and that's why it was
faucets.
Yes.
The faucets that would give you 10 whole Bitcoins if you
Yes.
clicked on them. My God.
So Chia and ChiaLisp have actually been around for like I want to say like 2 or 3 years possibly.
Yeah.
It's just that now that all the Chinese people are buying all the hard drives, and now people, so they literally think this was made like a month ago, when, you know, we're seeing articles from March and last year and shit.
Yeah.
And so as you said, because of that, and they just launched the testnet a couple of months ago. That's why there's probably so very few applications. Plus, also, I honestly think the whole hard drive scaring people away.
Yeah.
But one of the ones I came across is the best superhero ever, Plotman.
Plotman.
Yes. We need Plotman for. You ever sat like if you watch Joss Whedon's Justice League, Justice League. That's where my brain is at. And you were confused at the plot that you call it Justice League. Plotman comes in and explains the plot to you. But yeah, no, Plotman is it basically manages those plotting operations on your hard drive. And it has its own GitHub.
Yeah.
It comes in its own wrapper that now I have to zoom in on. So yeah, this was literally like the only like major application that someone else made that I could see, which is Plotman here. Automatically spawning, used to have plotting jobs, all of this sort of stuff. That's a screenshot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of. This is like, I feel like this needs to be on the screen of that university student that's dressed as Spider-Man giving a presentation.
To be fair, this is kind of like what agricultural management software kind of
Yes.
looks like, where you have a list of plots, the crops on them, how much reserve.
That's
etc.
why like things like Farm OS is such a godsend, where someone actually manages to GUI that shit.
Yeah. And the Linux Foundation now has a group for.
We actually might be covering that next month, so because we're gonna probably talk about that stream. So that's basically mostly what's there. I have a video that I'm debating of, because what's more right now, what I really want to do is just share the freaking DLive lemons and then raid. You know what I actually might do? So the video about it was actually, so apparently there's a specific thing with Intel hard drives, where it's something about the default software or how they configure it. I think so, yeah. And so so I found a 10-minute video about, like, it literally takes 10 minutes to redo that entire hard drive so that it works as basically like a standard hard drive that Chia can be operational with. But, you know,
I imagine it's a bunch of HD parm commands.
That's what I imagine too. But
your drives to HD
I think what I'll do is, instead on YouTube and stuff, I'll put that video in the video description, because I was going to share the guy's his YouTube page anyhow. He does a really good breakdown of it. But basically, this is most of the time that we have. I'm going to go to face mode as I try to get everything else in order. So we're going to see if we can do these lemons or not. Thank you, Circel, for showing up on this. And when I kill this stream, he's going to strangle me. It's going to be hilarious. I wish we could do that on stream. Maybe for a charity stream we'll do that. And I was a little worried about the audio, but I'm like, oh yeah, I have desktop audio turned off, so no weird thing. Plus I know all the tabs that I open.
Yeah.
So so now I'm going to go into DLive. So what we're doing now, so we've reached the end of the show basically, and someone, as soon as I do that, someone asked a thingy here. Despite the lack of research and getting many things wrong about Chia, I did enjoy the stream. Any chance for making your future streams a bit more UK time? Okay, so honestly, it's sort of an uphill battle in terms of doing times, because basically I've realized over the years that no matter what time I pick for streams, a section of the viewers are going to complain. Like, there's no one really good time zone. I really try, because what I did was I looked at YouTube, DLive, and specifically Twitch, and I noticed, like, when the most amount of people, particularly in the United States and, like, certain other nations, were, like, on watching at the same time. And that's why I determined, okay, like 7 to 8 p.m. Because, like, basically by the time 9 p.m. happens, and I just looked at, for example, on Twitch, and I just looked on DLive right now, everyone's on there looking at all the different streams. And that's why we have that. This is also the same reason why we have things like the YouTube and our PeerTube and stuff, so that if you can't make an episode, this will immediately dump over to a pre-recorded video of it that you can download and watch and everything.
Also, goddamn ducks, if you have any corrections you want to make or anything, you can feel free to, like, fire them our way, or
yes,
like, tweet about them or something.
Yeah, in fact, I've been actually wanting to make a stream in the future, because I tried researching this. Again, this is very new, and that's, again, one of the reasons why I brought on, because I knew the Lisp section would freaking kill me. But I'm actually thinking about probably doing, because I think the anniversary episode for this show is in July, and I was actually thinking the anniversary episode was not only correcting some of the things that I got wrong or have changed, but also there's certain things that I couldn't get working in older episodes that I finally got working now, like the IPFS, where I couldn't get the wallet. I downloaded the wallet, so I wanted to share. So I'm probably gonna do an episode of, like, all the things that I got wrong and the programs that got failed working. So yes, so you can always show us. In fact, I'll type our email in here. It's also on our website. And also to note, I will say this: it's actually most shockingly difficult and actually, right before I say that, if you're on DLive, I'm submitting lemons right now. So in the next 30 seconds, you should be able to get lemons.
Yeah, lemons!
Yeah, that's actually when people donate lemons to us. That's what it actually goes, yeah, lemons! It's actually really difficult, and I actually tried with this. I actually tried reaching out to some of the Chia development people, and I didn't hear anything back. I just assume they're all
Yeah.
busy because most of the people in cryptocurrency, except for one or two exceptions, I'm not going to name, and none of them were the Chia people. No one's rude. It's just everyone's really busy. Again, I'm trying to do the cannabis stuff and
Yeah.
trying to get everyone to talk together.
Like-
So I will say, like, if you have community members or like predominant community members, or you know people on the development team, it's way easier for me, and I would love to have them on the show to talk about their own thing, because they can probably talk about it. They will definitely be able to talk about it better than I can. And we've had episodes like that in the past, like when I brought on Gnu Towler and stuff like that. So if you know of people, or if you are people on there from Chia, and you're like, they got everything wrong, I want to email us. I'd love to have you on to talk about the stuff that you're doing, you know?
Yeah. Because, I said, I don't pretend to be an expert in anything. I'm not a programmer. I'm a programmer.
You just play one
I'm
on
not
TV.
Yeah. I'm a programmer, but I'm not much of a coder at all. So, I mean, I understand a lot of how, Lisp works, how things generally work like that. I was just brought on because apparently I'm somehow more of a programmer than this guy, so I don't know how.
You saw the first episode of Crypto Barons where I tried to make the blockchain. That literally took 2 hours.
Well, yeah.
I was
guess.
copy pasting, and it still took 2 hours.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, those like hour and a half was the JavaScript one. The Python one took like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm not a Python programmer, that was way easier for me to set up and do from my past experience, primarily with Ruby.
Thank goodness for virtual env.
Yes. So what we're doing right now is I'm quickly, because I had them up before, but maybe they just ended their stream or something. I guess I did. But we're basically, there's a lot of people on right now. So if you're on, there he is. So if you're on Twitch, we're going to go raid someone in like basically a minute. But yeah, we've reached the end of Crypto Barons. Thank you for everyone. If you're on Twitch, don't leave yet. We're gonna send you. Oh shit, wrong thing. We're gonna send you over to like awesomeness in a moment here. Let's click this creator dashboard. So yes, thank you for watching the show. And just a reminder, if you really liked Crypto Barons, well, first of all, if you like the show, again, you can, even when we're not streaming, you can always hit that bell on YouTube to make sure you get those notifications and subscribe not only on there but on Twitch and DLive. Again, even if we're not, like, we love to do that on air to cheer for, but you can do that anytime. You will always get notifications when we go on air. And I promise they're probably way more factual than the stuff we talked about with Chia today. Because, we tried. But
Tried.
yes. But the thing about this is that if you are interested in Crypto Barons and you want to know about like the next episode, we normally do it second and fourth Saturday of every month. I had a bunch of stuff to do way late yesterday night. That's why we're doing it today. The next one will return, so that will be the let's see. Yeah, that will be... Okay, so here's the weird part about May. May is kind of a mutant month, so I'll give you the exact thing. That will be on the 29th. So May 29th, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be on... I'll bring in a moment. I'll be on there. I can say right now that because our meeting's VR themed, I don't know what Jack's doing. I think Jack's going to talk to Cyril about this because he needs help with this, but I know that the next Crypto Barons and the next Master of Unlocking are going to be also VR themed. So basically the remaining, and I think you might have something you might want to do for Circuit Breakers with
I've
VR.
got something in mind,
yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, so why do you have it, before I spiel, why do you have a giant?
I was just going to say, use GPUs for gaming, use them for AI research, use them for computing, don't waste them on mining.
Yes. That's why most coins are switching to proof of stake anyhow.
Yeah.
Because of all this terrible meltdown stuff.
These things are running out. Use them for good, not
Yes. We want to be able to buy PlayStation 5s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we should make that a poll. I mean, we did make that into a poll, but we should do that. Like, what's gonna be like legal? That's the legal tender. Is it gonna be cryptocurrency or PlayStation 5s or Texas Instrument calculators?
Oh boy!
One of those three are gonna become our new legal tender. AI research +1, yay! AI fan. So yeah, so on the 29th will be the next episode of Crypto Barons. I can tell you right now because I'm not delaying this for the world. It's gonna be VR themed, as someone brought up before. There actually is an entire VR platform that is based off of cryptocurrency. cryptocurrency and blockchain tech. So we're going to cover that on the episode, and you get to maybe see me wear a virtual actual block on the chain, which is provided by our co-founder Ch-Ch-Ch-Chia. Our meeting is going to be on May 21st. That's going to be entire VR themed. I will say in the next 48 hours, you're going to see a huge post on all of those. Huge. And if you are frustrated that you have to wait all the way to the 29th for the next Crypto Barons, this Thursday from 9:30 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m., I'm going to be live streaming my reactions and interactions with an online conference done by the Polkadot people called Polkadot Decoded. It actually goes on Tuesday, 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, but just because of timing and stuff, I'm only doing Thursday 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. this Thursday, so that will be on the 20th. And similar like when we covered Hope and DEF CON with the live streams, you'll get to see my reactions. And also the cool thing about Thursday is there's going to be a lot of tech workshops during that. So we'll explore Polkadot even further than we did on the Polkadot episodes. I said Polkadot too many times. But yeah, so stay tuned. We're gonna have like crazy VR. Like we're gonna have. I'll see you guys on hopefully on Thursday for the Polkadot Decoded. You'll see those announcements online soon. I hope to see you for the meeting on the 31st. It's gonna be insane. We have a lot of cool VR stuff for that, and I can't wait to see all the other VR stuff that we're going to do. So now we're gonna go raid something that for all of you people who are sad that we don't talk about cryptocurrency markets and stuff. I got you, fam. And so we're going to go raid this awesome channel if we're able to. Again, if you like what you can see, you can like, share, subscribe on Twitch, DLive, or YouTube. They're completely free, especially on DLive because we can do awesome stuff as crypto superstars. And we just have so much content that I can't wait to see you next couple of days. Make sure you follow us on our website at defcon201.org or on our social media, which I post a link tree for in chat because we're on defcon201NJ on Twitter, as well as defcon201 on Instagram, GitHub, the Hostux.social instance of Mastodon, a bunch of other things. That's where you can, and our website, either one of those, that's where you'll get updates for. So thank you for watching this episode of Crypto Barons. This is me half drunkenly cover Chia and Circe awesomely covering Lisp. But then thank you for being on this episode. And he's basically going to like, well, you don't drink, but I was gonna say equivalent of your version of like get drunk and go to bed.
Yeah.
and then he's gonna lob a grenade in my room for like dragging him onto this. But hope to see you guys. I hope to see you guys for the Polkadot Decoded, our meeting, and our next episode of Crypto Barons. Remember, it's gonna be May 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hack the Planet, Dirty Jersey represent, and remember, Lisp has a defund parameter or whatever. So yeah. Lisp, no fun allowed unless you're Lisp NYC. Go check them out. Do you have
cool.
a website or something?
lispnyc.org.
Awesome.
LISPNYC.
Peace, everyone. Enjoy the music. Wave goodbye, Sarah. Stay tuned. If you're on Twitch, we're going to go raid this awesome crypto channel.